Our vision statement is a world without breast cancer. To me, that's our ultimate goal, is we want to eradicate it.
I know ultramarathoners, physically fit people that are really tough, and then I meet breast cancer survivors. I mean, that's tough.
When we stop with them, we just say, hey, turn around. 7,000 people, 8,000 people clapping for you. It's really special.
If someone gets diagnosed with breast cancer, where do they need the most help immediately? From South Bend to Evansville and everywhere in between, this is Get In, the show focused on the Hoosier State and the incredible stories happening here today. I'm Nate Spengel, founder of Get Indiana, and I will be your host for today's conversation. If you've been hunting for a brunch spot that understands food allergies and has bold flavors, look no further than Fire and Ice Cafe in Indianapolis. This hidden gem serves up European-inspired dishes that are entirely gluten-free. They're also completely free from peanuts, tree nuts, soy, sesame, fish, and crustaceans. We're talking biscuits, sandwiches, crepes, falafel bowls, pastries, and of course, all your favorite brunch drinks, crafted with serious care and a whole lot of flavor. Whether you've got food restrictions or just interested in great taste, this place is a must visit. Seriously, I don't have dietary restrictions, but the food actually rocks here. You definitely need to check it out. Grab your brunch crew and head to Fire and Ice Cafe at 6211 Allisonville Road, and your taste buds are gonna thank you. Now let's dive into the episode. Today I have three amazing guests. I'm joined by Stephen Hunt, Executive Director of Susan G. Komen Indianapolis, Tammy Lisby, a resilient breast cancer survivor and survivor chair for the Indianapolis More Than Pink Walk, and Ryan Randolph, president of the board at Susan G. Komen, Indiana. Now, Susan G. Komen is the world's leading breast cancer organization, funding groundbreaking research, advocating for health equity, and providing vital support to those affected by breast cancer. Since its founding in 1982, it has invested nearly $1.1 billion with a B dollars in research and provided support to over 220,000 patients. Today, we're going to be talking about the founding of the Susan G. Komen Foundation, talk about their mission, the More Than Pink Walk that's put on every October, and get into a little bit of the survival statistics and the work that you all are doing within the state of Indiana, and ways, listeners, if you listen till the end, ways that you can get plugged in, whether as a walker or maybe a little bit more of, there might be some openings on a board that might be coming up. So, everyone, welcome to Get In.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nate.
I am really, really excited to have y'all on here. This is a topic and I don't even like just an organization that's very close to my heart. My mom got breast cancer. This would have been back in 2012, 2013, and ultimately passed away in 2017. As like correlated to breast cancer. So when I got I think I got a request or something, and I was like, oh yes, we absolutely have to have y'all on and talk about this because it's very, very important. And there's a ton of work done on both the patient side as well as the research side. And I think the Indiana, specifically around IU Health, is doing so much work on the research side, like literally groundbreaking research for a lot of cancer, future cancer treatments. So I think where I want to start at is Susan G. Komen. Who is this? Who is this woman?
Yeah, it's a great question. And a lot of people don't really know the story. So Susan G. Komen Foundation came about because of a promise between two sisters. Susie Komen was diagnosed with breast cancer back in the early 70s. And she lived for a few years, but unfortunately ultimately passed.
Yeah.
But she made her sister make her a promise that her sister, Nancy Brinkman, would do everything that she could to take care, get rid of breast cancer. And so after Susie died,
To get rid of breast cancer.
yeah, I mean, to, take care of this,
Yeah.
She didn't want anyone else to go through what she went through. Like you said, in 1982, Nancy started the Susan G. Komen Foundation. She literally, this story always blows my mind, that she literally had $100 and she had a shoebox full of potential donors' names. And that's where it all started. And here we are 45 years later, 43 years later.
Public math is hard.
Public math is way hard.
It is.
And, it's grown into this national organization with international reach. And just like you said, we're the number one non-government funding for breast cancer research comes through the Susan G. Komen Foundation.
Nice. And when thinking about research, I think that that's something that people need it'd just be good to educate people on is there's money that goes to, there's certain charities or whatever that like supports patients that are actively in this, battle. And then there's like the research side, which is like, if your goal is to eradicate breast cancer from the planet, it's like it happens on the research side in laboratories and clinical trials and that kind of thing. So what's the work that you all are helping fund? Like, what does that look like?
Our vision statement is what resonates with me more than our mission statement, which honestly is so long I can't remember it. But our vision statement is a world without breast cancer. And so that's what I always lead with, because to me, that's our ultimate goal is we want to eradicate it. So in answer to your question, Susan G. Komen over the years, and maybe I should give you a little bit of history to back it up somewhat. So when the original foundation launched and spread across the nation, we were kind of like, I like to say it's akin to a franchise. There was the Susan G. Komen main office.
Where was that at?
Dallas, Texas. At least it has been for the last few years.
Is that like where Susan was from, Texas?
No, she's from Peoria, Illinois.
Huh. Okay.
Right? I know.
Right.
Just across, 3 hours away.
Yeah.
But so when the originally it rolled out, we were all what we called affiliates, and they were all independent 501c3s that were based in the various states. And in each state, you could have 3, 5, 7, and they were all their own individual.
Oh, so I could be like an affiliate in South Bend,
Yes.
or like Fishers, and then there's another one in Carmel or Zionsville.
Exactly.
Like, wow.
So here in Indiana, I know for a fact we had Evansville, we had Terre Haute, we had Indianapolis, we had Fort Wayne, and I believe there was a South Bend. Those are the ones just off the top of my head that I've learned about over the years. What made that not work was that the offices only served their specific region. So here in Indianapolis, we served Marion County and the Donut Counties. But if you lived outside of the Donut Counties and you weren't in one of the other areas, you couldn't get services. So if you live in Greenfield, I'm sorry, you're out of my range and I can't help you as much as I want to. And that continued all the way up until 2000.
Well, and when you say services, like what are the ways in which you're helping individuals?
Back when it all started, the individual affiliates would fundraise. And those fundraising, 10% of it, Ryan? Was it about?
10 to 20%.
10 to 20% of that directly went to our home office. And that's where the national research dollars came from. Everyone would send that money in, pool it, and then through the process of getting a research grant, the office would decide who gets what. But then the additional 80 to 90% that was raised locally was then given out in grants through the office to local communities. So for many years, the Indianapolis office supported Little Red Door, supported Pink Ribbon Connection, all these local agencies that provided the services. So we never actually gave money to anyone. We never actually drove someone to and for a treatment, but we gave the money to the agencies that were able to do that. That's how it worked up until 2020 mark. At that point, I don't know this for a fact, but I always said, I feel like the pandemic forced a decision that had already been made. And Susan G. Komen went from that affiliate model to one national organization. So we no longer had 300 affiliates doing their own thing with their own HR departments, their own IT departments, their own boards, hiring and firing the staff. We are now one unified organization. Not only are we able to service everyone, doesn't matter where you live, which is one of my favorite things. It doesn't matter where you live, you can get treatment.
So up until 2019, you could only it was like the Indianapolis chapter.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So rural Indiana was definitely left out of the mix there.
Totally left out of the mix. And let's say the Indianapolis affiliate was a very successful affiliate, and so had a lot of money. But they could only use that money for central Indiana and those counties that we serviced. And so if there was extra money, it's not like someone, again, in Greenfield, they had no options. Whereas now we serve all 92 counties in Indiana. Doesn't matter where you live. And throughout that, we serve every county in the United States. So it doesn't matter where you live. My Kentucky friend here, if Possum Trot, Kentucky has a survivor who is currently going through treatment and it's costing them, X amount of money, they can reach out to our national hotline and get connected to resources that will provide them with services, will provide them with some financial aid depending on their circumstances, counseling, an ear to listen to, just all those things that when we were an affiliate, it wasn't possible.
Yeah, and it's like you can't like borrow from your neighbor. Like, hey, is there a surplus up in South Bend? Like we need some help down here in Indy or whatever that might be.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a much better model than what it used to be.
And so today, funding wise, like dollars raised in, does a large portion go to the national piece and then it gets divvied out? Like, how does that work? And what are some of the organizations that you're currently funding in 2025?
Yeah, so it's kind of a different model. So now all the proceeds that we raise will go to the national office. Mm-hmm. Then the national office, we have brought in those services in-house. We now have our own patient service center. We have patient navigators that are on call. All the things that we were giving grants to local organizations to do, we now do through a national umbrella with an 800 number that people can call and talk to, or through our website.
But now it's more of like, we saw that we were writing, $100 million in grants or whatever it is, per year to XYZ service across the country. Let's bring that and try to do it with an efficient use of capital, all that stuff.
Exactly. And then when it comes to the research, Indiana, we are fortunate that we have two premier research facilities in the state. You mentioned IU here in Indianapolis, but there's also, by extension, Bloomington, but also Notre Dame has a huge cancer research facility. So we actually get a very good percentage of research dollars that are coming back to Indiana. It's actually, don't ask me numbers because like I told you, I'm not a numbers person, but we bring more research dollars back into Indiana than we fundraise throughout the course of the entire year.
That's pretty cool. And provides a lot of opportunities for that, those in the education, the research sector there. Amazing. Well, I'd love to talk about what got each of you involved with the Susan G. Komen Foundation. And Tammy, I think the perfect place to start would be with you, because I believe that your connection to the Susan G. Komen Foundation will be a little bit different than ours. Mm-hmm. So how did the Susan G. Komen Foundation get on your radar, and how did you end up becoming the chair of the More Than Pink Walk?
I got involved because I got breast cancer, and in 2017, found my own lump, went through the journey. You find peace with other people that have gone through it. When I first started, I started with the American Cancer Society. They had a local walk at that time. A few months later, I got introduced to the Susan G. Komen walk, decided to try to raise some dollars, do the walk. It happened during my 1-year cancerversary, so it was my first Susan G. Komen walk. And I had a team of about 35 friends and family that came out and walked with me. My team, starting in 2018 and to present, is Tammy's Tata Trotters.
Yes.
And the whole thing is kind of a nod to, obviously, the Tatas, and then a trotter. I am from Possum Trot, Kentucky, so I have a nod to the trotters. So I still have my team. They still support me, and I love to do the walk every year. Got involved in the actual administration of the walk through Stephen. I call it being voluntold that I wanted to do that, which I did want to do that. He asked me if I would like to be involved, and I very much would. It's a cause obviously very close to my heart. My mama also had breast cancer, now me, and I have a 14-year-old granddaughter that I very much do not want her to go through this.
2017, take us back to that moment and like the weeks, months that go into, you said that 1-year cancerversary, but there's 52 weeks of a journey, of a battle that gets you to Tammy's Tata Trotters walking, right? Like, what's the first thing you do? Who do you call? Who do you talk to?
Well, like I said, first, I found my own lump by chance, called my gynecologist, got an appointment. Well, let me back up and say that I found my own lump the night before we were leaving for a 2-week vacation. So, needless to say, that vacation was a little bit not as great as it could have been, and I had to wait until I got back to get into my gynecologist. So I went into her, she felt it, and said, you need to go have a mammogram, which my mammogram luckily was scheduled for about 6 weeks from that point, but she went ahead and got me in early.
Like, you talk about a 2-week vacation. What's going through your head while you're like waiting to figure out what's going on?
That is all that's going on in your head. There are parts of that I don't even remember, because it's just all of a sudden that is your whole brain. It's your whole brain. And you have yourself, I mean, like they say, don't go on the internet, but of course everybody goes on the internet. And after a couple days going on the internet, I didn't want to go on the internet anymore.
Oh my gosh.
No, I didn't. You have yourself in every situation in your mind. I ended up having my mammogram about a week after that. At that mammogram, they told me they wanted to do a biopsy. So, and of course, that mammogram was on the Friday before Labor Day weekend. So they brought me back on Tuesday for a biopsy.
Oh.
Yeah, long weekend, fun. And then on Wednesday, I was so nerve-wracked when I went in for that biopsy. And I think that the radiologist guy, they're all so wonderful, the way they treat you. He knew how nervous I was and how hard. I mean, I'm sure it's hard for everybody, and everybody has their own journey with it. But clearly he could tell, because he actually called my husband with the results instead of me and asked my husband, should I call her or do you want to tell her? Because I'm not sure how she's going to do. And so I got home from work that day, and my husband was in the kitchen, and he just told me, got the call today, and it's cancer. And he said, and you have an appointment Friday with a breast surgeon. And it went from there. And I mean, it went at that point, they take you and you go on autopilot. They take you. You have a navigator, you have a surgeon, you have your person that's going to do your radiation. They already have everything planned for you. Where
were you getting your treatment at?
Community South.
Community South. Okay.
They truly just let you just coast through it if you can't function. And for the first few weeks, I couldn't function. I was going to surgeon, to MRIs, and I mean, just everything.
Well, and there's probably a million things that they're throwing at you.
Yes.
To like, you're going to have this, and then you're going to have that. And it's like, no one at any stage could keep all of that like together, as well as like battle this life-threatening disease.
They assign you a navigator, and they give you a notebook. And I mean, literally everything is mapped out for you. And for probably the first month, I probably spoke to my navigator almost daily. She would call, text, whatever, remind me of this, remind me of that, need to do this, need to do that. And then surgery day comes. I had a lumpectomy. They walk you through all of that, go home. Found out 6 days later that my lump contained invasive cells, which they did not find in the biopsy. So I then had to go back 14 days or so after my surgery and have lymph nodectomy so they could check lymph nodes. I was very fortunate that those were all clear. And then you start your radiation or whatever treatment you're going to have. And so I went from starting out in late August to I rang the bell on my birthday, December 28th of 2017.
Wow.
Yeah.
One, I mean, congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
an incredible. That's a lot packed into that period of time, from August to December.
It's your whole life. It's literally like a job.
And I just can't imagine, that moment where you walk into the kitchen and your husband's there and you have that conversation. But it is nice that there are the resources that like help you through this journey. I think back to my mom's journey, and I was like largely a kid, like a high school kid. So I'm very engulfed with like myself and who I was going to the prom with or whatever, right? And I didn't really like now I hear it and I like want to cry because I'm like thinking about how as a kid, I didn't care nearly enough, and like I didn't like do. So I'm like, this is gonna be an episode, people. Let me tell you. So as you're going through that, like your feeling, your emotional, like, because at first I have to imagine it's very defeating, and it's like, what kind of went through your head as you thought, like, no, I have to go and like do this battle?
Like I said, when you first get diagnosed, I mean, everything that goes through your head, I mean, in 15 minutes you have yourself dead in your mind, right? I mean, that's just how it goes, and I know that almost everybody that's being diagnosed goes through that. It wasn't just me. But when you start thinking about your life, I had grandbabies at that point, 2 grandbabies at that point. Now I have 4. Shout out to the grandbabies. And
avid listeners of the Beginning Podcast. The grandbabies are
YouTubers
listeners
extraordinaire.
Yes. But I mean, as anybody, I just wasn't ready for my life to be over. I was just getting into the golden years, the getting, I only work part-time now. I'm getting ready to retire soon. I have grandbabies. I wasn't ready to be done.
Yeah.
So you just decide. I mean, you have to decide, am I going to give up or am I going to do it?
The attitude and that like goes into the speed of your recovery.
100%. You have to view this, like I said, almost as a job. This is what I have to do. At first, I didn't have a positive attitude. Everything in my brain was very negative. But that is where the staff at Community South and the navigators and other survivors, like they immediately had me start attending this support group that is held at Community South of other survivors. And I will say other survivors are probably the biggest part of what brought me back to this is just a speed bump. This is just a speed bump, and you're going to get through this, and it's going to be in your past, and you're never going to forget it. And they're right, and I still have some anxiety in life when it's time for my yearly mammogram,
Yeah.
But the other survivors who have been through it and have done it, and they're the ones that put the spark back in me that, I'm going to be one of you soon.
What's the piece of this battle with breast cancer that most people might not think about, that most people might not have heard of? I think a lot of people see it's you have to go through, you have your surgery, you have the treatments. It's terrible. Seeing that happen to my best friend, I would not wish cancer treatment on my worst enemy. But is there a piece that no one talks about or no one thinks about, or that was just maybe oddly challenging that people need to know about?
When I first found out that I had cancer, I thought, okay, I'm going to lose my hair. This chemo's going to be terrible. I'm going to be sick. I didn't even realize that there was a decent chance that I wasn't even going to have chemo, which I did not. I did not. I only had to do, I say only, but I only had to do radiation, surgery and radiation. I think that that's probably a misnomer to a lot of people. They think, cancer, you're going to have chemo. You're going to lose your hair, and this is... But it's not, for me, it wasn't, that was not my journey. Now, that's a lot of people's journeys, but I think for me, so I really can't comment on what chemo feels like, and I'm sure it makes the journey much, much worse. It's not a one-stop shop. This is not exactly how everybody's goes.
And I think the emotional and mental stress and the toll there has to I don't know if it's equal to the physical stress, but that's a large, weight to carry on your shoulders from the physical side of doing the treatment and all that, as well as in the back of your head you're I remember what I read on WebMD,
right. Yeah, the emotional and mental state was probably the hardest for me, much harder than the physical. Nobody likes a bazillion needles stuck in you all the time, but the mental and emotional was harder than the physical. But one thing I'll say, and I tell this is one story I tell anybody, any place I speak about this at all, that before breast cancer, I now can define my life a little bit, pre-breast cancer, post-breast cancer. And I've always been somebody that's dealt with a great deal of anxiety. I've just always been that warrior. My husband always would say if I didn't have anything to worry about, I would go next door and see if they had something I could worry about. And that is truly how I always was. Since breast cancer, it's not like that. Not saying I don't worry about normal things, but it's I don't sweat the small stuff anymore. That put my brain into perspective.
Yeah, it gave you a new reference point
Absolutely.
of perspective.
Yes.
And I think that is so powerful.
One of the things we love about Tammy, and she's just been such a great ambassador for Komen, and you see her and you just light up, right? She's got a pink tutu on at things. She's all decked out in the pink, and honestly, anybody that's around her, your whole day just changes. Right. And I think that's that's a testament to what you've gone through, Tammy, because to your point, you were a different person
Absolutely.
Before and after. And I will tell you that process, while tough, has impacted so many other people because of that.
So I run a lot. I've done an ultra marathon, an Ironman, and I always have the pink breast cancer ribbon on my shoe, and it is really moving for me. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's moving for me because it's when you're in the midst of this race or whatever the thing is, it's tough. And it's I look down and I'm this isn't tough.
This isn't tough.
I know ultra marathoners. I know I know these crazy physically fit people that are really tough. And then it's and then I meet the breast cancer patients, survivors, the whole 9 yards. I'm that's tough.
And that's what I mean when I say that, it put my brain into perspective, because things that I thought were hard or tough or impossible, not even close. Things that just really, I'm not saying they don't matter, but they don't matter nearly as much as I thought they did.
Yeah, it's so incredible. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure. Thank you.
I'd love to know how you all got plugged in to Komen and the impact that it's had on your life.
So I joined the board about 8 years ago or so now. I had a client of mine, I'm in the banking space, but I had a client of mine whose wife was on the board, and I had just moved back to Indianapolis about 10, 12 years ago. And said, hey, looking to get involved, right? And careful what you ask for, right? As soon as you tell somebody I'm looking to get involved, they'll grab you. And I joined. Didn't have a real close personal connection with breast cancer. Interestingly, since then have. We've got really close friend who just was diagnosed a few weeks ago. Young mama, 3 boys, 38 years old, late 30s. And as you go in this long enough, you're going to run into people. You're going to know people that are impacted.
Because it's so common.
It's so common, right? I mean, 1 in 8 women.
1 in 8. That I was going to ask.
Yeah.
How come 1 in 8 women?
Yeah. 1 in 8 women, right? So we've got a small group at our church, and there are 6 families in there, and so one of them, right? And so there's your one, right? Hopefully just the one. But, so I think as we go through this, I got involved, from a board perspective, and you start going to these events and you meet the Tammy Lisbys that are a part of this community, and you just get hooked because, you see them, you see that what they're going through, the battle that they're doing, the strength that they have. And you know what, to your point, it makes the rest of your day seem like, I can do this, right? If they can do that, I can do this. And so if you can do that, I can help raise awareness, and I can help raise money, and I can help, do that. Because I think the interesting thing, and you mentioned this earlier, is, how different your treatment path was maybe from somebody else. And that's one of the big things that Komen has helped over the last 40 years is really the diversification and specification of treatment, right? And so whether it's, the 19 FDA approved, drugs that we've supported over the years versus, every single person's individual, pathology, what they're working on is all different. And so the specialization of treatment has gotten to a point where your story is a little different than somebody else's. And what a unique opportunity that is. The more and more, awareness that we get, the more funding we get, the more we can actually really dial into how can we help Tammy? How can we help Karen? Right? How can we help these different people?
I love this episode already. This is fun. Steven, how did you get plugged in?
When I first started out in my professional career, I actually worked for Simon Property Groups, and I was an assistant marketing director in training. Within the first couple months of me getting into that program, the marketing director up at Muncie Mall was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so I was asked as a trainee if I would go and sit in her seat while she went to treatment. And so for the next 2-3 months, I would go up to Muncie 2-3 times a week while she went through her chemo and all that. And we laughed. We called it, I sat in the big chair. I was the boss of Muncie Mall, marketing department of Muncie Mall for those few months. And we developed such a tight friendship and such a bond. We nicknamed her the glowworm because of the radiation. And I'd get notes left to me, have a good day from your glowworm and blah, blah, blah. And, I am so ecstatic to share that she survived and is thriving. And, here we are 30 years later. She's still my glowworm. But as I started, went further into the Simon and learned more about breast cancer in general, and then the opportunity came up for me to leave Simon and go to the American Cancer Society. She was my impetus. She was the one in my mind. And at that point, right after that, my brother was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, which is a form of blood cancer. And so it was like, all right, cancer seems to be my spot. I tell everyone, there's nothing like breast cancer survivors. They are their own unique, crazy, looking right at you, Tammy.
Yeah.
Goofy breed. I love them to death. They just the energy and the strength that Ryan talks about. I mean, we call them warriors because they are warriors. They light up the room.
I want to take a minute to tell you about my friends at JC Hart and the opportunity that they are giving to Get In listeners. They are offering summer savings of up to 2 months off of rent at these brand new communities, East Bank in Noblesville, The Edge on the north side of Indy, and Wheelhouse in Westfield. If you're looking for an awesome place to live, you need to hit up my friends at JC Hart. Go to homeisjchart.com/Nate and check out all their cool properties. Or if you know someone that's looking for an apartment here in Central Indiana, send send that link to them and JC Hart can take them on a personalized tour. You know me, I'm all about Indiana, and JC Hart is as Hoosier as it gets, and they do some amazing things in our community. And they also wanted me to let you know that they are always looking for awesome people to join their team. They just made the list of best places to work in Indiana for the 13th time. Check out their open positions at homeisjchart.com. Now let's get back into the episode. And it does seem to have this culture.
Yes.
You know, where you talk about like as soon as you, it's like as soon as you got in and like got to one of those meetings and you like see, you like flip a switch.
Yeah, you become a pink sister.
Yeah,
that's what you
drink
become.
the pink Kool-Aid,
Yeah,
for sure.
It's the truth.
Which is amazing. And I think that's like such a piece of it that helps you not feel like you're going through it alone.
Right, and that's what I say. That was the most important part for me, having someone to talk to.
Where did the pink come from?
I don't think it was a Susan G. Komen thing. I think Susan G. Komen took it and ran with it. Yeah. And what is, I think, don't know if it's the truth or not, but I think it's because of the work that Susan G. Komen did in those first years of expanding awareness. Mm-hmm. We would often joke at the American Cancer Society that, you know, I wish we had the brand awareness that Susan G. Komen does, you know, especially in our work in breast cancer, because it was like everyone like automatically assumed that when I started talking about breast cancer, I was with Susan G. Komen. I'm like, they were sponsored by Yoplait at one point and had a pink ribbon on yogurt. And, you know, we'd light up the Salesforce Tower pink and yada, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think, personally, I think that's kind of where it all kind of got the
But all
big,
cancers have a color ribbon.
have
They
a
all
color.
have a color ribbon.
Yeah.
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 I don't know when that started. I always thought it was like, especially when it got into like people are wearing pink in October in the NFL and like all these, and it's just like, I don't know if I can like pull out the other cancer ribbons like off the top of my head as quickly. I think maybe, oh yeah, pink. That's breast cancer.
I think that is the most dominant one.
Probably.
That,
I agree.
Most
and
noticeable one.
like you know, all the little kids, like when I was, I don't know, whatever grade, it's like you get the fight like a girl t-shirts and the this, that, and the pink wristbands and the whole 9 yards. And it's like, it was almost like it just, that culture, just mostly everyone knew someone that had been affected by this.
Right.
1 in
Yeah.
8.
And I think that's right there. One of the interesting parts when you talk about just breast cancer in general is that prior to Betty Ford coming out and telling the world that she had breast cancer, you didn't talk about breast cancer. You know, it was the C word, and it was not proper.
Wait, what year was that?
Would have been
in the
I was
70s.
gonna say 70s, yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
right
'Cause,
around.
I mean, this is always a thing.
Yeah.
But people, and I think that people were also just, very private about like all
Private,
things.
it's
Oh,
breast,
yeah.
right? And,
It's
and so
breast.
you're like, this is a private part.
Yeah,
and it's-
and the fun part about that to me is when we have the walk, and I'm sure we'll get into this, but there's a what I call the pink parade. I think it's
yeah.
actually called the Parade of Hope.
It is.
Yeah, and it's where the survivors all walk, into the arena essentially, and we have signs that say, less than a year and 1 to 5 years, but it's the ones in the back that are 45 plus year survivors. They're out there now saying, hey, I'm a survivor and I'm proud. Back when they had cancer, they didn't talk about having cancer. They had no support.
Yeah. Like they didn't have that
They
group.
didn't have anything.
No.
Man.
And those are the ones that when you talk about being brought to tears, when I see those survivors and some of them being pushed in wheelchairs because they're 80 something years old, that's what makes my heart continue to want to do this, is because I want to be a 45-year survivor too. And I hope by the time I am that nobody else has to ever worry about being a survivor.
Yeah.
I think the thing to add on to that, when we line up for the Parade of Hope, it goes in order of year of diagnosis. So our most newly diagnosed patients lead the parade. And the whole thought process behind it is what Tammy alluded to, is that those, 1 month, 1 week into their journey can turn around and see the 500 behind them that have survived. And I cry every year.
I do too.
Every year.
I mean,
gonna try
imagine,
thinking about it right now.
imagine the biggest shock to your life. And it's like, and we invite you out to this walk next week. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you talk about this moment where you were just like, it's overwhelming. And then you get there and you're like, oh, like there's others. I asked to just be, let's talk about,
we always make it a point to go. I always make it a point to go talk to the first person in the line. right? Because and they don't want to be the first person in the
Correct.
line, right? They've been recently diagnosed. This might be their first, walk that they've ever been to. They're nervous. They don't know what they're doing, right? They see a sign that says, less than a year, and we stop with them and we just say, "Hey, turn around," right? And that parade of hope. I mean, it takes 20 minutes, right, to get 500 survivors to kind of walk through, and you've got 7,000 people, 8,000 people clapping for you and showing the love, and we walk them right down this kind of tight corridor, and it's really special.
Where's it at?
So we are back at Military Park at White River State Park. After COVID, we went over to Celebration Plaza for a few years because we didn't know what to expect with coming out of COVID. How many people
Where's
would show up.
Celebration Plaza?
Celebration Plaza is right in front of NCAA Museum.
Oh, okay, yeah, gotcha.
So it's a beautiful spot, and it can comfortably accommodate about 5,000 people. So our first year or two coming out of COVID, it was perfect. But on that second year, I was looking around and I'm like, we don't fit here already.
Yeah.
So we moved back to Military Park, which is where Race for the Cure was held for many years. And that's one thing I did want to specifically bring up is that a lot of people. I still to this day are like, Race for the Cure. When's the race? When's the race? It's not the Race for the Cure anymore. It is now the More Than Pink Walk. So what Indianapolis for 40 years had the Race for the Cure, it's now the More Than Pink Walk. The reasoning behind it is because the walk is more open, more family friendly. We would have, a certain amount of people that registered to race because they wanted that timing and the chips and all that kind of stuff. And we had to charge to be a part of that because of having to pay for the timing and the chips and all that. But now with the More Than Pink Walk being a family-friendly event, we don't have to pay for those expenses. So the walk is free to everyone. We invite you to, register and join us.
If you want like an emotional, is it like a Saturday?
It's a Saturday
If you
morning.
want like an emotional Saturday morning. Oh my, when is this?
Saturday, October 4th.
All right, it's going on the calendar.
Go on the calendar.
October 4th.
We open at 8 a.m. to the general public. And, I've kind of built it over the last couple of years into more, I keep saying family friendly because, we've added elements to it like a kid zone. We've added vendors. We've added food trucks. It's a party atmosphere that we want people to just come and hang out and just really enjoy and celebrate. And our survivors, I tell this to everyone, we love to pamper our survivors. And so they have their own area that's called Hope Village. And Tammy and her team literally will guard the gates to it. Only survivors and one guest can come in.
Oh,
yeah.
It's true.
It's true.
VIP.
VIP experience for our survivors.
It really is. There's a pink carpet and everything. It's amazing. And as a survivor, you love that. You love that.
yeah. What kind of things can you share with us?
Oh, yeah, please.
Sure. I mean, there's, it's set up very elegantly in a tent with very beautiful tablecloths and centerpieces. It's very peaceful. All survivors are given a bag of goodies, which they always very much look forward to. And there's food and drink in there that is just for the survivors. And the fun part about that is that you go in there and mingle, and you are amongst your people, per se. You're amongst your pink sisters. And you hear their stories and where they are in their journey, or if they're outside of their journey, or, and they're also allowed to bring a guest. And so many times that is their spouse or sister or brother who was their caretaker. And in my case, my husband was my caretaker, and he was my rock. I mean, for me, Derek was my person through that. And you hear their stories, other caretaker stories, and they are as involved and invested in this as you are as a survivor.
Yeah, I would add, you asked Tammy a little while ago, what's one thing that people don't really know about? And I don't think people really understand the impact that it is on the caregiver. They go through the mental and emotional stuff just as much as the survivor themselves, but they're hiding a lot of it because they want to be strong for the survivor. And I will add too, men get breast cancer too. We don't talk about it a lot.
I just heard that Indianapolis, or maybe IU, is creating a repository of men's breast tissue to help with research, and we're the first to doing that.
Yeah. So the Susan G. Komen Tissue Bank at Simon Cancer Center Great partners. Yeah, great lead-in.
Layup, come on.
I wanted to talk about them today anyway because they are going to have a really cool upcoming event around the WNBA All-Star Game. But they have been around. I'm not a numbers dude. They've been around for a while. But their whole goal is they collect healthy breast tissue, and it's a repository, and they have that information open to researchers across the world. And they are the only, to my knowledge, the only tissue bank that's available. They are going to do a 2-day tissue drive right around the time of the All-Star game. And they are specifically looking for not only, they're always looking for any age of female, but at this particular one, they're looking for African-American, Black and brown women to donate their tissue because African-American women have a 40% higher rate of death than white women. And African-American women don't participate in clinical trials and research as much as white women. So by getting them to be involved in this tissue collection would be phenomenal because that would give real tissue for researchers to work in. Yeah. I also learned yesterday at a meeting I was at about Eli Lilly has recently started a brand new website that you can go on to and learn about clinical trials that are available. And clinical trials are, again, another thing that it's a great way to try new research and to get more information out and about. And a lot of people may not consider them. And so I definitely wanted to give a plug for that.
Was this trials.lilly.com?
I believe that is correct.
Ooh, yes. You can, find a trial that's right for you or your loved one.
Yeah. I literally heard about it at a meeting yesterday.
Look at that. Amazing. Well, I just heard about the tissue collection effort around WNBA All-Star, which will be amazing. Mm-hmm. I had just heard about the tissue bank and that we have women's tissue, healthy breast tissue, men's healthy breast tissue. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I do want to briefly rewind back into, as we were talking about the walk and kind of finish up this thought or the statement that really resonated with me. It's a group thing. Mm-hmm. I remember when my mom, her cancer had come back. This had been, I was a sophomore in college. It was the fall semester. And I remember getting the call, and I think I've talked about this on the show, but you get to listen again. I get the call. I'm at the library. I went to DePaul. I get the call at the library. What's going on? And from the jump, just knew something was not right. My breast cancer's back, and it's metastasized to my lung. And it was so tough, but it's also I can't freak out because if I freak out, then she's going to freak out. And my mom actually lived with my grandma. So it was me, my mom, and my 90-year-old grandma. And my mom was supposed to take care of my grandma. Turns out that the whole thing flipped around. So I remember I transferred home, spent a semester in northern Indiana, driving to treatments and doing all this stuff. I'm a radical optimist, largely from this point in my life where you just had to have a positive attitude. And it's and hope that would be contagious to my mom. Mm-hmm. And it's and all the other survivors and the people, the pink cult or whatever you want to say. It's great, the best kind, because that energy is infectious to other survivors, other people battling, the whole thing. It's just this awesome community. She had a camouflage party. Mm-hmm. Heard of these? Yeah. All pink, all of her girlfriends, Brett came in, she got a couple new wigs, which she really loved. She walk in with red hair. I was you're not a redhead. What the? She's I can be today.
Yeah, you get to be whatever you want to be.
Exactly. And so I just this, the idea of, the VIP section, but you're also bringing your rock, your husband, your sister, spouse. So many people step up because, if you're going to treatment, twice a week or whatever, it's a lot for a lot of people, and I think of all the resources that are offered for cancer patients and people that are battling this, from the support groups to the transportation.
Yeah, and transportation is a huge issue. There are patients that end up missing treatments because they cannot get transportation,
especially in under-resourced communities.
Exactly.
We were in rural northern Indiana. We had a car we could make, but it was a 30-minute drive from where we lived to Goshen, which was where she did treatment for a lot of it. But it's imagine if you're city bus routes or that's hard.
Yep.
Like I can't even like. There's just extra layers of complexities that get added on here. It makes like a already very.
It's hard to go to treatment anyway. You don't want to go.
Yeah.
So if actually getting there is also difficult, you're probably not going to go.
Yeah, and then oh, by the way, not only do you have to like catch 2 buses and this, and it's like you also have to like keep a positive attitude. Oh, and you're gonna feel so shitty when you get out of there.
That's exactly right.
And then you're back on your 2 buses.
Yeah. Any barrier to that, and it's just you check out, right? And
That's
say, I'm not going to go today.
What are the orgs or like the initiatives that you see that are making the biggest impact in Indiana? You know, like for actual cancer, like people that are battling breast cancer today, like what are initiatives that you guys maybe have started or that you partner with or that you've previously funded that like, hey, did you know if you know someone with breast cancer that might be struggling with this thing, that thing, or the other, like they need to know about this transportation resource or this support group, or like what are a few of those?
Yeah, I would have to truly do shout outs to so many of our partner organizations throughout Indianapolis and Indiana in general. I have the privilege of sitting on, we recently, thanks to a grant from Lilly again, they did a grant to do a breast health disparities discussion and brought together everyone in Indianapolis that works with breast health. And so there was a grant that brought together groups in 3 different cities, and Indianapolis was one of them. And Indianapolis is the only group that has continued to meet to this day. And now we're in year 3 of this. And sitting around the table, I mean, and I'm going to forget someone, so my apologies, friends. But we've got all the hospital systems at least sitting there with a patient navigator, as Tammy said, Little Red Door, Cancer Support Community, Pink Forever, Pink Ribbon Connection. I mean, everybody. It's humbling to me because we don't, like I said earlier, we don't provide those services, but I've met all of these men and women who their agencies do. And so I would say Indianapolis is blessed to have many resources for all levels of where you may be. And I would say, you know, any of those local agencies are fantastic opportunities. I believe you can not only call the Komen hotline to find that out and search on our website.
Do you know what like the biggest asks, like, or what the typical, like someone gets diagnosed with breast cancer, like where do they need the most help immediately?
Finances.
Oh,
Number 1.
oh my gosh.
Transportation is probably number 2, if not equal. In fact, I mean, we've spent a lot of time over the last few months discussing transportation and how that barrier is just ridiculous. So I would say those are the 2 biggest ones. And then, you know, you get to the individual therapy, the individual whatever. And to Ryan's point, it has become so much more personalized. There's now, we brought in a guest speaker last year at this time, and there's a test that has been developed that survivors can take in their 4th year of treatment to determine whether or not the therapy that they're on will work for them in years 5 through 10, which is amazing to know. Definitely, specifically, if you genetically will benefit from this or not. And it's a new thing that is totally covered by Medicare, Medicaid, but people don't know about it because it's so new. You know, so like there are all these things that are out there, and it's overwhelming, right? I mean, like, how do you? I mean, even if you had your Trapper Keeper from back in the day with all the information, it's all the information.
Even rural Indiana versus college-educated north side of Indianapolis.
Exactly.
Versus maybe someone who lives downtown versus the south side. Like, it looks a little different for everyone. Like, how far you have to travel, and you're talking about, like, financially, like, yes, insurance and that part of it, but also, like, what if Uber is, like, your way of getting transport? Like, the finances or, like, the right food that you have to eat. Like, the stuff you have to buy. Like, wigs aren't cheap.
Yeah.
Who would have known that?
Lost work, right?
Lost
I mean,
work.
That's what I was
know,
getting ready to say. You lose work.
It just like fires me up a little bit because there's so much, not a little bit, a lot of it. It fires me up a lot. But there's just so much. It's a lot deeper of a system. Like there's just so many parts to it than I think meets the eye. I could literally do a full like Joe Rogan episode, 3 hours talking to you all. We are coming close on time. As we wrap up talking about, I mean, the amazing work that the Susan G. Komen Foundation is doing, if there was one piece that you each would say that people need to know about when it comes to the foundation and the work that you're doing, the people that you're supporting, the people that are volunteering? What would that be?
It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of hands. And so, from a board perspective for us, as we think about, what we do year in and year out, right? The cornerstone event is going to be the More Than Pink Walk, right? But we'll do other things, right? Throughout the year. We did something earlier this spring, a pickleball event, right? Where we're, dink for pink, and we're out there, doing some pickleball because everybody loves pickleball. We do a big wigs campaign, right? Where, somebody will take, and I was a big wig a few years ago, and this was my my pink mohawk night, and you throw this on and go raise a lot of money, and probably messing up the sound here, but
No, I love it.
But you go out and we're trying to find people that are influential in this community. There you go, Nate. Throw that on there.
Oh yeah, we can make that happen.
We can make that happen. So. Yeah, this is the way to do it. So you find influential people like Nate who flip it around. You got your your business in your front and the party in the back.
There you go. Come on.
There
Yes.
you go. So that's we find people like Nate who want to go out and say, look, I'm going to use my connectivity in this community and the people that I know to go say, hey, I know the Tammys of the world. I got friends. I've got a mom who went through this, and somebody that says, you know what, I want to spend some of my time, talent, and resources to be able to go support an organization like this. So we do things like that, like a Big Wigs campaign. We'll do, and so the point is we try to do things that, different ways that people can interact, right? If you're a cyclist, later in the fall, we've got something called Tour de Komen, where there's a 100-mile bike ride from Fishers all the way out to Terre Haute, right? Where we'll have 75 to 100 cyclists that are, in full on Komen gear, right?
That's
and kind of like the Tour de France, right? But Tour de Komen. We, somebody on our board, his mother had passed. And so, he did this to say, this is how I want to give back. And so we try to find different ways for people to get involved along the way and raise awareness because, like I said, more and more making sure women are going to get their mammograms, going early, right? It's becoming earlier and earlier in life as well. I mentioned the woman who's in her late 30s, right? And typically they would say, don't go start getting mammograms till you're 40. Uh-huh. And, if had she not gone and done that or done a self, exam, might have missed it. So I think making that awareness, for everybody is super important.
And speaking of the board, I know that there are some opportunities for people to be involved. What do those look like?
Yeah. So, we've got a board of about 9 people today. Trying to get that up to closer to 15 is kind of our goal. So we've got people on the board, we've got a couple bankers, we've got some lawyers, we've got some, someone from Lilly, we've got, somebody from, a real estate background. But honestly, at this point, we just want people who are passionate about the cause, right? And somebody who is connected in their community and feels like they can, bring a perspective. And for us, whether that's somebody from a medical background might be helpful, right? And so we like to bring different perspectives to a board, so that we're well balanced. So opportunities for that.
If you out there are interested in some board work, how can they get plugged in?
Yeah, reach out to me, Ryan Randolph, and we'll put some information on here. I know Nate will probably flash something up here for us.
Yeah, we'll make it happen.
But yeah, reach out to us, and we're happy to get you involved. We meet a few times a year, and I will tell you, the other way you could do it, come to an event. Right. I always tell people
on October 4th,
mm-hmm.
In the morning.
Yeah. Come out to Military Park October 4th. I will dare you not to want to get involved after you go through that and see the survivor, parade of hope.
Well, I don't want to cut Tammy's thunder short. I don't know what she's going to pick, but your breakfast.
Yeah, we have a survivor breakfast. I think, have we done it 2 years now?
Yes.
2 years. This will be the 3rd year. And it happened about a month before the walk. This year it's September 6th. And it is a breakfast for survivors. I'll have to put a shout out to Yamalama and Big B Coffee, who take care of the food and the drink for the event. But it is just a bunch of Pink sisters that get together. We have breakfast. You have fellowship with them. We take pictures. Just a time to be together. And it really does ramp you up for the walk. I mean, you really are ready for the walk at that point, and you want to be with all of them and spend your time with them. And I have to say, we were talking earlier about pink being the breast cancer color. I was never a pink girl, ever.
That is shocking.
Yes, right? I was never a pink girl. Pink was just not my color. But starting in 2017, it quickly became my color. And now a lot of things about me are pink. You know, my tattoos, my breast cancer tattoo. And I mean, I'd say 80% of what I wear now is pink. I have pink hair in October. I mean, it's all pink all the time with me.
Yeah.
But that is part of what joins you in this sisterhood, because even at the breakfast, people come in all pink. You take pictures. Like I was just looking at pictures of the breakfast from last year, and I mean, everything is pink. It's like everything is pink, and it's a beautiful color to me now. It's a beautiful to see all my fellow survivors come together with their pink on. I mean, it's everything from pink hair to pink tutus to pink everything. So the breakfast is something that any survivor, I think, would want to come to and be a part of, because we also have guest speaker there sometimes, and it's a very interesting thing, but it's just a lot of camaraderie.
Yeah. And that's September 6th. So if
Yes.
you are a breast cancer survivor and you want to hang out with your fellow pink sisters
Yes.
and Tammy, where's that at?
It is held at Brower Plaza, which is at 2960 North Meridian Street.
She's got
it.
dates, times, addresses. Oh,
It happens to be my husband's office, so his office donates the space, and we usually start around 9 o'clock.
Yamalama, spectacular food too.
It is spectacular food.
Very, very good.
Yes, and that's the building that they operate out of as well.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, September 6th, October 4th. Those are the dates to remember. Don't forget them. Round us out, Stephen.
So I would be remiss if I didn't invite everyone to come out to the More Than Pink Walk and, take the next step, register to actually be a participant, be a walker, be a team. We have so many corporate teams that come and do it together as a team building exercise and a way to just, come together. You can find all the information at komen.org/Indianapolis Walk. And that has all the information for the walk itself. Plus, it has the link to register to come to the breakfast. So you go to that one website and you can get both events taken care of.
Tammy, I would love to know, what was your treatment day? Did you have pregame rituals? Ooh. What got you pumped up? Like, did you have like a song? Like I had to have AC/DC playing when I was rolling in there?
Well, I did not have anything like that. My treatments were always at like 7:15 in the morning. Oh. Yeah. So, no, I really didn't have a ritual, but I can tell you that I always made sure that I had a piece of pink on me somewhere, always. And I always had my mama's cross from her cross necklace with me.
That's amazing. We were number one hits of the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
We would just, I could give you all of them word for word. Like we had it on CD.
CD, yeah.
So we would be rolling the 80s hits, just like bobbing, like going in there, like we're about to F some stuff up.
We do Back in Black with my son before we go to soccer games and stuff, AC/DC, right? But we need to change that to Back in Pink.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, there we go.
We need to rewrite it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like you go in there and you're like, I am here. Like you kick open the door a little bit. Like we're ready to rock today. We're going to talk a little bit about Indiana. Obviously, this is the Get In podcast. We highlight places. We're talking about Yamalama or other spots. Is there a spot in Indiana that each of you loves? So I'm going to ask. We'll start with Ryan. What is a hidden gem in Indiana?
Yeah, so I was talking with my wife about this last night because I said I need a hidden gem, and one of the things I would say less hidden, but something we love to do. So go to Newfields, right? And you go to Newfields, go to the art museum, and they have this great little patio out there with some food that you can get. You can sit out in the gardens and stuff. We did that for Mother's Day earlier this year, and it's just our favorite spot. Go find a Sunday afternoon and go do that. So I would say less hidden, but a great way to spend an afternoon.
Like Ryan, I also talked about this with my family. I was like, these are the required questions I'm going to have to answer. We live in Noblesville. Love it. We've been there now for 11 years. I don't know how hidden it is anymore, but Forest Park in Noblesville has always had the train that does like Easter train, Christmas train, et cetera, et cetera. But in the last 2 years, they've added rail cars that you can ride actually on the train tracks. And my understanding is it's 4 people on a car. And they ride up and down. My oldest son works there. And so he was like, it's sold out every day. Like you can't walk up and get tickets. You have to pre-book it.
Wow. What is this?
So it's a rail car. So you're like pedaling.
Oh, I have seen these.
On the track.
On the track.
actual track.
Yeah.
Like the nickel plate.
Yes, yes.
Something or other. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen those. Those are pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you get that's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that. Tammy?
Mine would be, I told them a few days ago, Veal's Ice Tree. I don't know if, I'm surprised people haven't heard of this. It's Veals. And it is this massive ice sculpture that is created by a nearby pond. The pond is right next to it, and they literally spray pond water in January to create this huge ice sculpture. They put coloring in it, and it is it's massive, and it lights up at night.
Veal's Ice Tree. This thing is crazy.
Yes, and it's there in usually January-ish.
31
that's it up next to the house. Yes.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Veal's Ice Tree.
And-
6445 Mimosa Lane. Count me in.
Yeah.
I'm
And
there.
it is literally it's a person's home and land, and they have a pond right next to it, and they create this huge ice tree, and it lights up at night, and it's gorgeous.
Way.
Tim, you say people come and like they'll like the cars will line up.
Yeah,
to come
Mimosa
see
Lane, I
it
guess,
and-
is what it
yeah.
is like just lines of cars. You just park on the side of the road somewhere.
I
Isn't
mean,
it amazing?
Yeah, they got 31,000 followers on Facebook. Like this is a spot.
huge.
It's one of
This
my
is
favorite
I've
things in
never-
the winter.
I've never heard of this before. This is
That's
sorry,
huge.
gentlemen.
No,
this
no,
is
she wins.
She
this
wins.
is a
We knew.
hidden gem.
It's
That's why we
awesome.
started here. and worked our way
Wow.
around.
It's awesome.
I love that. Tim, I do have another question for you. We're just going to put this just to one. This is our Younger Years segment. It's brought to you by our friends at Or Fellowship. They're a great organization here in Indiana, helping develop young business leaders across the state. So, Tammy, what advice would you give to your 22-year-old self?
Don't sweat the small stuff. You can do hard stuff. Life is going to give you a lot of speed bumps, and you can do it. And you don't have to do it on your own. There's people you can help. There's no shame in asking for help, and there's no shame on leaning on somebody when you can't walk yourself.
If people out there are listening, whether they might know someone who's been impacted by breast cancer, or they just have heard this episode and are interested, like what's your call to someone to like why they need to get involved with the Susan G. Komen Foundation?
I have a 14-year-old granddaughter. I don't want her to have to deal with this. I don't want her to have to worry about it. I don't want her to have to hear 1 in 8, because by then it could be 1 in 6. It could be, I don't know. I don't want her to have to worry about that. And clearly, it's obviously in my family. This disease needs to go away. It just needs to be eradicated. Much like my shirt says, cancer sucks, and it does.
I just am very, very grateful for you all coming on and spending an hour and 15 minutes with me this morning. The work that y'all are doing is just so incredible and inspiring. And October 4th, I'm really charged up about the More Than Pink Walk. And it's something that is unfortunate. 1 in 8 people are affected. The ripple effect of that, 1 in 8 women experience breast cancer, but I would say 8 of 8 know someone,
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you know a person that is like a friend, a family, a loved one, have been affected by this terrible disease. So the work you're doing, funding research and helping people that might be going through their own battle, it's from someone who our family was very affected by this. I commend you all for doing the hard stuff and for building up this community as well, like hosting the breakfast and, being fired up, having a team for the walk, 35 people coming to Tammy's Trotters.
Yes.
Come on,
Yes.
let's go. I just think that like the attitude that breast cancer, that community brings is so infectious.
It's like nothing I've
And
ever
it's like,
experienced.
if you need something, if you're going through one of those parts in your life and you need something to pick you up, like go spend time there on October 4th and be around these people who are experiencing the hardest of hard things and the attitude they bring and see this parade of hope. Like it just gives me chills and I get fired up thinking about it. So I'm just very, very grateful for you all and the work that you're doing. Thank you for coming on. If people do want to get plugged in, whether it be board opportunities, signing up, volunteer, what can we do? How can we help?
Yeah, I would say the easiest, if you are feeling the passion that you're feeling right now, send me an email. shunt@komen.org. I'm sure Nate will also put it across the bottom of the screen, but I would be more than happy to go to coffee, go to lunch with you, talk about what your passion is, what you like doing, how we can plug you in. because it's a fight that involves us all. And going to your earlier point, they know someone that they don't know that they know because someone may not have told them. I'm like, there's no way today that you don't know someone.
Yeah. And people might, I mean, that's like it's
personal.
It's personal.
It is. And that's a really interesting point to bring too, is that not all survivors are like Tammy. They're not loud and proud. It's a personal thing. And so we respect that. If you're not loud and proud, that's fine. But we want to be there for you.
Yeah. I actually, this is slightly off topic, but a similar topic. I actually found out. So the guy who founded or cured testicular cancer is from Indianapolis. Is the guy who treated Lance Armstrong and all these people found this one specific, I don't know the whole thing about it, but is in Indy. His name is Larry or something. I can't remember. Don't quote me on that. Someone could comment and give me the whole thing. But Reddit. He has his own Reddit thread where guys come together and talk about who treated them for testicular cancer and all. And I'm sure there's something like that for women with breast cancer, where it's if you're not loud and proud, I'm sure there are resources that maybe if you know someone that doesn't want to be, that is just more private about it. There are resources for them to see. There are communities, because I know there's this one for testicular cancer. I'm definitely sure there's one for breast cancer, where there are people fighting and wanting this community, even if they don't want to show up to a breakfast. There's also these online places for people to find their tribe. Yeah, that's kind of a tangent, but thank you all. I appreciate you coming on. If people want to connect with you all or get plugged into anything, we have email. We'll talk about board opportunity type stuff, or the breakfast, September 6th / the walk, October 4th. I appreciate y'all. Keep up the great work, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Get In. If you like what you heard, make sure you leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This show is made possible by our friends up at Sweetwater. Whether you're looking to start a podcast or take your content to the next level, click the link in the description to see all of my gear recommendations at sweetwater.com. If you want a behind-the-scenes look at everything we're doing across the state, make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nate Spangle. Thank you so much for listening and being part of what makes the Hoosier State great. We'll see you next time here on Get In.